Hey, this is Phil, Animal Mentality, with another episode of the Pakcast. And today we have a special guest, Gary G6 Turner. Now, in the past, we've talked to elite powerlifters and bodybuilders, but today's special guest not only is a competitive athlete himself, super heavyweight bodybuilder, but he also works here at Universal Nutrition. And because of that, he has some really interesting insights, I think. And I'm very excited to talk to him. Gary, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. How's everybody doing?
Tell me a little bit about how you got started in bodybuilding.
Bodybuilding actually wasn't the first thing that came to, the forefront right when I started training. I actually got too fat in college my freshman year. And I said, you know what, I just want to lose a little bit of weight. I think girls will like that a lot more. Started running 5 days a week, started training 3 days a week. Just wanted to flatten my stomach. I thought abs would even be too hard to get. So I started off slow. One thing led to another. It snowballed into this obsession, so to speak. And that's kind of how it got all down with that. I was like the fitness guy on campus. I was about 180, 190 pounds. So I wasn't that big, but I was big compared to other college kids. I didn't start competitively bodybuilding until after graduation. That's when I met my buddy Frank Manarino at a hardcore gym called the Pollen Gym in Edison, New Jersey.
Sure.
And I had started bulking up around that time. I wanted to do a competition in 2010, in June 2010, but I had a girlfriend at the time of 5 years who absolutely despised bodybuilding especially, but even disliked going to the gym altogether.
Why? What did she hate about bodybuilding or the gym?
Thought it was completely vain.
I see.
She thought she didn't, and I offered, why don't you come to the show? You can see the dedication. It's not really the way you think it is. Absolutely refused to do it. And so I had a choice at that point. Was I going to stop, not compete and not follow my dream and stay with her, or change avenues? And Frank was part of the reason that I ended up breaking up with her. And that's when I started my bodybuilding journey. And I got on stage that June.
Did she actually give you an ultimatum? It's me or bodybuilding?
Yes.
She did.
She did. And then I had the show planned. And I remember being at her house on Thanksgiving of 2009. And she said, do you want to do a show? And I thought that was my cue to tell her. I didn't know how to tell her. I was maybe a month of walking around saying, I don't know how to tell her. And I said, this is my chance right here. And I said, yeah, I actually have one planned for June 2010. And she goes, we can't date then, right? And I said, I know. And I just left. And I guess the next day was the first day. And I always tell the story. My wife, when I met her at the end of 2010, within 2 weeks of knowing her, I brought her to the NPC Eastern USA's in New York City. And everyone's like, why would you bring her to a bodybuilding show? Like, that's so weird. And I said, if she despised it, then I only wasted 2 weeks of my life because we weren't going to go further. I said, that was tryout.
That's right. So you learned from that first experience.
Right. Why would I get back into a relationship with somebody who hates bodybuilding if I just dumped a 5-year relationship?
Yeah, that's interesting. So let's go back a little bit further. So you started, I guess you got bit by the iron bug in college. Were you playing college sports or no, just regular college kid?
Well, the funny thing is that I was a high school athlete my whole life. I played 4 years baseball. I played since I was 5. I was a wrestler. Played football most of my life up until college. Hated the gym, though. I loved playing the sports, but anytime we were sent to the gym, I would say, this is fucking stupid.
Why?
And I just didn't like to—
Boring?
I thought it was boring. I didn't like to train. I didn't think there was any reason to. I was a skinny kid. I was an out-of-shape skinny kid, so to speak. And I just thought it was dumb. And when I first got into the gym, even my father said, you're going to last 2 weeks and then you're going to quit, just like all the other times you started the gym. And here we are 13 years later.
Around what time, what year was that when you were getting your start training in college?
2006. February exact to be 2006. I came back from winter session after the first semester of freshman year.
Oh, okay.
And then I went.
And you said you wanted to lose a little bit of weight. Now, was weight something you struggled with all your life?
No, I was usually a skinny kid. However, I had a tendency to kind of get like a little bit of a gut. So I was still skinny going in there. I used to play guitar. I was in a band, and that was more my thing. And I just kind of got an out of shape skinny. So I said, let's got to clean this up a little bit. And it just snowballed from there.
Okay. So yeah, the irony is not lost. Here, I think you told us that you wanted to get in the gym in college to maybe get six-pack abs so you can get the girls. Well, you got the girl, but then in the end, you lost her because she didn't want anything to do with bodybuilding.
Well, I dated her prior to that.
Oh, I see.
I dated her from high school.
Oh, okay.
So there wasn't, I didn't pick her up through that. She actually preferred me being skinny. If I had never gone to the gym, we'd probably be married right now.
So you were thinking about that even in high school, and so was she?
Yeah, it was an early on thing, and then kind of just took a turn.
Huh. Now, do you think, looking back, that that was a good escape for you, or no?
Yeah, it's created the identity that I am today. I learned a lot of things through bodybuilding, like work ethic and stuff, and applying yourself. Being dedicated and consistent with what you do, and I like to think that I'm one of the most consistent guys towards dieting and training, and you learn to apply that to other avenues of your life. So that's kind of how I've justified it. And listen, if somebody puts an ultimatum on a dream that you have, that's already a step in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Your significant other shouldn't be doing that. They should be supportive of whatever you want to do.
Especially in a sport as tough as bodybuilding, right?
Oh yeah, you need that. Looking back, there would have been no way.
Yeah, so it sounds like early on then when you started going to the gym in college, you learned those things, right? Dedication, discipline, and the monotony of training.
Sure.
And, whenever I talk to athletes, they always say the same thing, that after a certain while, whether it's meals or training, you got to be prepared for the monotony and the boredom. And that's a real struggle, right?
Oh, yeah. It's not something I struggle with particularly. It's just because I'm so, I don't know, I like to say fucked up in the head in terms of it. I just literally don't, it doesn't bother me. I have, my days off from the gym. I don't train every day. But I know it's almost like if you told me you have to stop right now, I don't think I can. It would be really hard the day that I retire, where I have to go back to living like a normal human almost. Because I'm just so used to eating chicken, rice, eggs, and almost eating for function. It's just, it's something that's becomes ingrained in your DNA. And, even in college, there was a time I went 2 years without a cheat meal. That is not recommended. I was very uneducated at that time that I probably could have definitely got away with it. And I was just kind of alone. And I thought, no, good bodybuilders, they will never have pizza. And I went 2 years without it. So I was very disciplined in that sense. I didn't miss workouts. I don't think I've ever taken off more than 2 days in a row since 2006.
That's interesting. So, I tend to think that there's always two sides of the coin, the same coin. And in this case, this discipline, and it, from the outside, it absolutely is discipline, right? And, if you're starting out in this game, or any game for that matter, and you need that discipline, I wonder how much of it is discipline, something that you worked at and something that you developed, versus how much of it was maybe like this obsession with the passion. In other words, have you ever felt this kind of is it fair to say, obsession about this lifestyle?
Absolutely.
Have you ever felt this obsession about anything else in your life?
Not this hard.
Oh, but so you have, right?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I've gotten anything. I'm an extremist, so anything that I focus on, I will go 100% towards. But anything that I'm not focused on, it will be 0%. And it's so like my father always says, because my father, he always likes take care of things around the house, everything. He's like, why are you not this way about maintaining your car? Or, getting oil changes every 8,000 miles. And he goes, you won't eat a single grain of rice more than what your diet says, but your car is 4,000 miles overdue on an oil change.
And it's falling apart.
Right. And he goes, why are you not like that? Why are you not spick and span?
And what's the answer?
I'm not into cars. That's not something I'm focused on. And I think that it's kind of like, I don't know, I take a piece out of like Arnold Schwarzenegger's book with that. He said, when I was training for bodybuilding, nothing else mattered. He goes, if my car blew up, I call the insurance company and then I go to the gym. He goes, what am I going to do about it? It's a very, very one-track mind. It's very obsessive. And I'm sure that anybody's listening who's not on that level is going to say, this guy is obsessed in a negative way.
Yeah, for
I know
example, this guy's got OCD or something,
Right.
something clinical. And so, it's an important question, I think, for a lot of guys and gals who want to achieve something great. It's hard because for them, the discipline and the sacrifice that's required is real work.
Mm.
But it sounds like for someone like you who sort of had this from day one, right?
Mm.
You just had to figure out where to apply it.
Right, where to apply it, where it's going,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And yeah, it's I've fully, when somebody says that I'm obsessed and I know that they're being negative towards me, I still agree with them almost.
Mhm.
I don't look at it they're combative towards me or anything like that. I still think I know that I'm like that, and I know that either something else in the future is going to need to take over that attention span, or I'm going to need some kind of professional help
Yeah.
to get out of it.
Yeah. And so for me, it's like that question, is it an obsession or is it a passion? And they seem similar, but they're not. I think the passion is something that you develop over time and it maybe becomes part of your identity once
Right.
you've done it for so long. But this obsession is something deeper. And I think some people have it and some people don't, right? Is that a fair statement?
I think so. And where you're saying with that is, I have a passion to win. I have a passion to advance. I want to look a certain way amongst my peers that are
Mhm.
that I'm going to be competing against, and I don't want to say leave a legacy because I'm
Mhm.
not at that level yet.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I'm at another level in terms of obsession because I know that if I ate one bad meal, that it's not going to affect me. In reality, I know logically this is not going to do anything, but I just don't do it because it's almost like I'm so rigid. It's almost like a personal law in my
no,
head.
I get it.
It's like, it's fine, but don't do it and I always say most people will fail at whatever their goals are, even if they're going 100%. So why should I think I can go 90 and somehow still get there? That's
Yeah.
almost insulting or arrogant to think that most people are going to fail going 100%. You're going to go 90% and think you're going to make it. You're going to fail too.
Yeah. No.
So
I know what you mean. And so again, whenever I talk to athletes or people who've achieved some pinnacle in their careers, many of them seem to have this quality of obsessiveness that they just can't let it go until they achieve it. So I'm wondering for you, you said you had this desire to always win. Before bodybuilding, where did you apply that obsession, that desire?
mainly baseball and wrestling. Baseball especially, that was the better of the sport that I was. Extremely competitive on the field. It was almost like it was a do or die type situation for me. I was a pitcher. That basically set the tone for the whole weekend on how I performed.
Uh-huh.
So, that's where the competitive aspect came from. Wrestling came a little bit later, but wrestling was also an individual sport. There's nobody out there to save you, just like on bodybuilding stage. It's you. It's not a teammate. This teammate did this for me. He screwed up, so that's why the team lost. It's you're alone, so everybody watches you screw up and or win. So the glory is kind of all yours. So,
Right.
that kind of that competitiveness and the passion was there then. As a young kid, the work ethic quite wasn't there.
And that's something that,
That
you
developed
think
over time.
you have to practice and work on?
Yes. No, not for me now, but I'm saying back then
Right,
as
right.
a 14, 15-year-old kid, I very rarely see even high school kids that have extreme work ethics. The ones that have talent and that kind of work ethic, use your state champs.
Uh-huh.
They go to full rides to Division I schools and stuff like that. But it's a very rare thing to see. And I've studied like a lot of wrestlers. My brother-in-law being he was a Division III wrestler. He was a regional champ in high school, and I watched them, and a lot of them were just talented kids that did well. And then there was a few that were running laps around the track after the match was done. Those I saw a little bit of myself and how I am with bodybuilding, and then those are the guys that are really good.
Yeah. So it sounds like, for anyone listening out there, that the success is in some ways beyond your control, but the things that you can control is developing a work ethic, running the extra laps. Even after a coach said run 20 laps, you run 25. And then there's that natural ability, right? You said some of those wrestlers just were naturally able and maybe they didn't have great work ethics.
Yep.
And then maybe another element is this idea of obsessiveness or passion that you really want to succeed. So were you thinking when you were playing baseball or wrestling, you know what? I'm gonna do this in college.
I wanted to play baseball in college. I had good high school years, but not good enough to get recruited. The closest I ever gotten to be recruited as a pitcher was the University of Virginia had asked me to send my summer schedule to the coach, which I did, but I didn't hear anything after that.
Okay.
So I don't know if they were there or not or whatever it was, but by senior year, I knew that I wasn't going to be recruited. I was an all-county, pitcher and stuff like that, but that wasn't enough to, go to college. So
how difficult was it to give up on the baseball and the wrestling?
Honestly, by that time, I was done.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't. I was really focused on going to college, just to be a college kid. It wasn't as hard as if tomorrow somebody told me I had to stop bodybuilding.
So what is that difference then? What changed between high school and now that you could give up baseball or wrestling, but you can't give up bodybuilding?
I'd say the biggest difference, and I don't know if this is negative or not, but it's the identity that one of them brings. I was a kid who was a good baseball player.
Uh-huh.
If you ask me right now what I am, I would say a bodybuilder. And my wife has told me many times, because you are not just a bodybuilder, you have a lot of other titles. And after bodybuilding leaves, you'll still have those titles. And that is a hard concept to grasp, that somebody who has the obsession, the passion that I have, where you're losing an identity when you retire or you can't do it anymore. And I think that I've built through work, through the industry, like kind of an identity that this is Gary, he competes, this is what he does, he's always with his food, he's always training on point, and eventually that's all going to go away. And that's a very hard pill to swallow. It's going to eventually have to happen, or,
right.
You're probably on a one-way ticket into the ground at that point.
So it sounds like if I were to talk to your wife and say, well, tell me about Gary, the first thing she might say is father. But if I were to ask you, the first thing you'll say is bodybuilder. And maybe father is somewhere down the line.
I might mesh them all together to make them look all equal.
Right. So,
but she would tell you that I was obsessive. That would be the first thing that she would say. She would say he doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah. Well, I think to achieve greatness in anything, you need a certain level of obsessiveness. Yeah. So I've known you a long time, and I know you've taken a little bit of a break from bodybuilding to ramp it up and move from heavyweight to super heavyweight. How did that happen? What was going through your mind?
I've competed from 2012 to 2018 in the heavyweight class, moving up weights within that weight class. And my last one, I weighed in at 222, which was the high end. It goes to 225. And I felt that I was very dragged down. The diet had, really ripped me down to the point I was a little bit worn out by that time. And I knew that I shouldn't be losing weight that rapidly to get into shape. So I just felt that with a little bit higher of a body weight, I would fit better into the super heavyweight. However, that requires a longer off season. That requires you holding the muscle a lot longer so that when you go into a heavy diet, everything holds together. A lot of guys are making that mistake nowadays where they have short off seasons and they go right into prep and they lose all the new muscle, that virgin muscle that comes on. They lose it and they kind of look very similar to what they looked like the last time, maybe a pound or two different. But the whole reason why I took over, I guess it's going to be like 18 months off season, is not only to add the muscle, but to hold it so that it becomes more permanent. And then we can go and have a much better look. I'm not a guy who's known for shape. I don't have a beautiful silhouette of a physique. It's just something genetically that I wasn't blessed with. But the more muscle that I add on, the more that can assist it on stage rather than be on a thinner side.
So as a heavyweight, if you competed at, let's say, 220, what do you want to compete when you want to get back on stage?
Probably around 245 would be an ideal thing. And that's a huge jump, but again, it's 2 years.
Yeah, it's a big jump. But you look a lot bigger than 245 right now. What are you weighing in right now, Gary?
I'm around 292 to 293 right now.
Okay. So you planning on keeping going, or you want to go north?
I'm going to
over 300?
There's an ongoing joke in the office, amongst everybody. Back in 2004, I was known as a perma-bulker who kind of ate whatever to try to get my weight up at all costs. And 299 was the highest I've ever gotten to, and it was a very bad 299.
Sloppy 299?
It's very sloppy 299. And I weighed that after Thanksgiving dinner, which doesn't really count, but it's still.
Well, you do what you got to do.
And I sat, it was 299, and people were like, you couldn't get one more pound. And so it said 300. I'm like, I was about to die at that. So after that, I died it down, and I haven't been close to that weight. I would like to see it just almost like to say I did it.
Right.
But I'm a lot older now where I understand that the number on the scale doesn't tell the whole story.
Yeah, that's right.
It's literally it's just a tool. And if it doesn't look right, it doesn't mean that that's necessarily a good thing. So I'm not 100% obsessed with it being 300. I like to hold it right around here because I do think I'm in a good spot to begin at prep, and I'm going to start begin that in March.
Oh, yeah. And do you have shows lined up for the future, or you don't want to talk about it right now?
I'm actually planning on doing the 2020 NJ States as a qualifier. That's in New Jersey, obviously. And then the North Americans, which will be, I think, about a month later. The schedule's not out yet, but that'll be in Pittsburgh, and that'll be my first pro qualifier I've ever done. I've competed 4 times at the national level, but they were at the junior level.
Yeah, and you think you're going to be ready, right?
I think
And how's your wife taking all this in stride?
She's taking it in stride, and the reason why I also took off was she's been burnt out from competing from 2015 to 2018 with no break.
Mm-hmm.
She asked me, can we just take off 2019? We just bought a house in Toms River, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So with all that going on, the year off helped not only her, it helped me physically and mentally. And I think everybody's going to be right. She's one of my biggest supporters. She cooks a lot of my food. She makes sure that I have everything I need. However, I can't keep beating her down show after show. I had to give her this necessary break. So if she's ready to go, which I know she will be, then, I'll be ready to go for it.
Yeah, I think there's this idea that bodybuilding and really anything where you have to achieve a super high level requires a great degree of selfishness. But I think people misunderstand it, and they think it's really about a kind of narcissism. In other words, everything I do is for me, and I don't care what the world thinks. But really, it's not, because you have to make compromises in real life and balance things, right? Like you're talking about.
Yeah. It's definitely a team sport. And anybody that's done it will tell you that. One guy's collecting a trophy on there or losing on stage, but there's a lot of other people that are going into. There's coaches. There's the people doing the tangents. Your people at home that are helping with cooking, that are dealing with your mood swings. That have to pick up your slack because you don't have the energy to do certain things, around your house or anything like that. It's just there's a lot that goes in because it's a 24-hour thing.
Yeah, sure.
It's not. It's not like a baseball game where it's over, and then you're not a baseball player anymore. You have to still eat the food. Your family's eating alone, or while you're eating out of a Tupperware. So it's It's a lot that goes in it, and it beats them down just as much.
Sure. And so I would assume that it really helps to have the people whether it's your family or your friends, to really understand the sport to give you the best kind of support you need.
Yes, it's almost invaluable to have the support behind you, and likewise. The opposite way, I've seen many athletes implode because they didn't have the support. I'm not saying they didn't have the help. I'm talking about people who are negative towards them, family members, spouses, whatever it is, and can derail these people, even as much as raising their stress levels from giving them shit about for competing. That will eventually give you a worse look than to have everything smooth sailing at home.
So going back to 2013 then, was that one of the reasons why you were thinking to yourself, you know what, I need a job, but ideally it'll be a job in the industry? Is that what you were thinking?
Not necessarily in the industry. I got hired here because I was working at Apollo Gym, the gym that I came up through. I was just working the front desk. And I also worked as a security guard at a library. So I worked a few part-time jobs. And one of our managers, Eric Schwartz, he trains there, but he knew the owner. There were some openings for customer service, and Eric was just putting out feelers. And the owner of Apollon told Eric, "Well, why don't you have Gary apply?" I sent my application over, and that's when I met Jason. Jason was the customer service manager at the time, and that's who I interviewed with. It was I was looking for a job that wasn't physically demanding. And I believe that there are jobs. I understand there's people that do.
You didn't want to lay bricks.
No, and I know there are people that do that. I don't think it's ideal, and I think it'll eventually catch up to you. People always say, well, Paul DeMeo, he was jackhammering, before the Olympia and everything. That is a very, very 1% person who can get away with doing that. I think there are certain jobs like labor jobs and stuff like that are not ideal for at least, at a high level bodybuilder. Maybe you could do a local show with it, but ideally an office job that allows you to eat and it allows you to like a normal hours where you can, maybe with not that much traveling.
Right.
I know people who work in an office, but they travel every other week.
So you had some pretty clear ideas of the kind of work you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume you were familiar with the company, the brands at the time, and was that something that added to the allure for you, or not really?
Yeah, I used Animal Pack. I wanted to get into the industry.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know. Actually, there's been many times my dad said, "Why don't you go apply to Universal Nutrition? They're over there in New Brunswick."
How did your dad know about us?
Well, he used to lift at Apollon back in 1980 to 1981.
Oh, yeah. Well,
so
the company was around then. Yeah,
we were around back then, and I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? Just knock on the front door? I'm like, I didn't know. And then it just coincidentally, it kind of fell in my lap at the gym. It was it kind of, all the stars aligned at the time, kind of. And I still have people ask me, how did you get involved with it? What do I got to do to get involved? I'm like, I was in the right place at the right time for this, man.
Yeah, and isn't that like also bodybuilding or anything? Sometimes you have to be in that right place at the right time. Now, I've always taken great pride in this simple idea, right? That you have to be able to talk the talk, but then also walk the walk. And, when you come to Universal Nutrition, you see the people here, they are athletes. They're competitive athletes like yourself. Now, when you were coming in for an interview, did you think, well, this is what's going to be like at Universal?
I was briefed and I was told that it was like that. And that was a huge, I really liked that. And I remember that not everybody was a competitive bodybuilder or, national level bodybuilder, but everyone in the office trained with weights. And I really liked that about, the company, that you're going to be accepted, I was accepted everywhere I went. I never found real resistance.
Mm-hmm.
However, I kind of stood out a little bit, just working at the library and you're a jacked security guard. With a bunch of librarians and, kids that are studying, it's not, you're going to stand out, and they might think you look cool, but it's not, there's no peers there that are, doing the same thing that you're doing. So it was kind of cool to get into where it was the camaraderie, even in an office setting.
Yeah. So you were talking about the importance of your family supporting you, or as a bodybuilder, having that kind of support. Did you find that that made a big difference for you, working in an environment where they understood that lifestyle and supported it?
Sure, because you don't have to. The conversations that you have, why are you eating this all the time? Why can't you have an apple while you're in contest prep if an apple is healthy?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to explain that whole situation that you can't have certain foods, even if they're healthy, at certain times. And, it's by no fault of those people. They're just uneducated on the matter. But, we walk in here and everybody knows what you're about. They know that, Gary's getting ready for a show, so he's going to lose probably 35 pounds in the next 2 months. And, and this is how he's going to do it. He's killing himself on cardio. And that's probably why he's being a lot more quiet than he usually is. Other companies, they wouldn't know that. They have no idea.
And bringing a cooler into work, it's not crazy. And like you said, you're talking about Eric and Jason when you came in and interviewed back in the spring of 2013. I mean, they themselves are competitive powerlifters. So I think it does make for a better environment. But I will say this to all the listeners out there. Many a time I've walked by the kitchen where you were nuking salmon, and that's the worst smell. But yeah, we accommodate that.
I almost got punched in the face by animal athlete Jordan Shallow on a road trip because we might have been on our way to Universal Studios in Florida, and I opened up cod.
Uh-huh.
And
cod's not bad.
It was bad that day.
Oh, it's bad that
it wasn't.
day.
Well, it wasn't bad to me, but it was bad to them. And Jordan says, if you open that one more time, I'm going to punch you in the face. And he was dead serious. So I didn't do it again. I think I left it. I like the fish on the, if it's easy to eat on the road. So
yeah,
it's light.
It's a little bit tougher in the office.
Yeah.
But that's again one of the unique things, right? That you come with the mindset of a competitive athlete and with your accomplishments, but you're working in a workplace. You got to have some funny stories about working at Universal, right? Something that maybe you can share with the listeners out there.
If any of the office workers are going to be listening to this,
Oh, you don't have to mention names
No.
if you feel more comfortable.
I almost burned down the building.
Is that right? When was this?
2015. And then I was toasting Ezekiel bread, and I walked away from the toaster that was in the kitchen. You know, normally the things pop up, and I come back about 2 minutes later and grab it. I started smelling something. Somebody goes, "Anybody making toast in the kitchen?" I'm like, "Yeah, what about it? It's me." And then I go, the whole kitchen is full of smoke. It was still toasting. It never popped it up. Something malfunctioned with it.
Uh-huh.
And I finally got it out with a fork, and it was charred black. There was smoke everywhere. We didn't know how to get the smoke out. I thought for sure I was getting fired that day. And
Were the fire alarms going off or anything like that?
we didn't have to evacuate the building. However, they kind of had to do something with the paneling on the ceiling to open it up to get it out. I thought I was nervous that day.
Well, I think the thing that people want to know is, did you end up eating the toast?
I did not. And
Yeah.
that I know for everybody is probably saying that he's not that dedicated.
No, that's what I was thinking, not that hardcore. Now, I remember a couple years ago, right, everyone in the office was eating Ezekiel bread.
Yeah.
Is that still the case now?
I still eat it.
Okay.
I still eat it in my last meal. Do I like it? Not really. I think it works, but I'm not it's boring.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm also wondering, you probably talk to people all the time, trade shows, wherever, ABCs, and they probably ask you this question, right? Like, what is it like working there? And they probably have ideas about what they think it's like. And do you have like a common myth that people seem to have that you dispel all the time by saying, it's nothing like that, it's like this?
I think that people kind of think it. I don't know what people actually think. I think that when I explain it to them, I say, listen, it's like TMZ of bodybuilding. However, we still do work. Meaning, if breaking news comes out in the supplement or the bodybuilding industry, usually there's some kind of parade that goes around to one of somebody's offices, and we're discussing what's going on. So, whereas if you worked at Apple, that wouldn't happen. They wouldn't care that Mr. Olympia is out of the competition now. But in our office, we would care. So that makes it very easy to work at the company because this is what I'm interested in. So it just all intertwines, and we do work around that. So I like that my passion meets my employment almost.
So for those who don't know, tell me a little bit about what you do here.
Basically, my job is I wear about 3 hats at the job. And they're all different. If anybody's been to our animal barbell clubs, which is basically we will go to a gym. It'll be a bunch of like-minded individuals under the animal brand. We lift together. Some of them we will feed you, sample out some of the new products. Everybody trains together. You meet the athletes. We bullshit there. I set up all those events. So new athletes coming in town, I'll make sure that we have them for him. We're going out to the Olympia. We're going to have one at the Lift Factory on the Saturday of the Olympia. So anything like that, I send out all the products to the gyms. I make sure all the flyers are made and all the athletes are booked for that. The other jobs I do what we call a VIP trainer program. And all of our top customers, I will reach out to and offer them free coaching through email. So that's on supplements, nutrition, as well as training. Any questions they have, it's totally, they can ask me whatever they want.
So it's coaching, but it's free.
It's free. It's a completely complimentary, say thank you for being one of our top customers. And I spearhead that. So like I said, we're answering emails back and forth all day. And it's unlimited. Once I've contacted them to say that they're enrolled in this program, they can email me 200 times back and forth. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
And the third one is social media copywriter. So just basically a lot of the content you see coming out on social media, I come up with the writing for it.
And how do you generate ideas for the writing?
A lot of it's funny, and I've told a lot of people that another reason why I like working here so much is that my mental and the way I speak in terms of how I market myself is very animal-like. So a lot of the wording that you see is just me speaking as myself, but I'm signing it as animal. It's not. I'm not putting on an act. I'm not putting. If anybody's followed my personal Instagram, a lot of those ones they'll look at it and go, "That sounds like animal." It's very. I'm not acting. It's not a charade almost.
So that
for
must
me.
have been a big relief. I know years ago you were more affiliated with our other brand, Universal, and went on a couple of the Universal road trips. So in a way, you must have felt like stifled. And then finally, when you came over to Animal, it's like, finally, I'm home.
Yeah, it's like I was just a little bit more intense for the Universal brand. It's kind of hard because I'm a goofball as well.
Mhm.
But the way I approach bodybuilding is in an intense manner, and how I market is very hardcore. So it was very easy to speak with the animal voice because it's something that I would do personally on my personal page. So there really is no like a difference between the two.
So the fun stuff, going to trade shows, Olympia, Arnold, meeting the athletes, training with the athletes, getting together with folks who love to lift. That's the fun stuff. What's the hard stuff about your job?
The hard stuff is just, people see all that and they this is great. You're going to train with Evan Centopani at the Olympia and everything like that. I'm like, that it is absolutely awesome, but there's still responsibilities that come with it. There's still deadlines to be met. There's still packages that need to be landed at gyms and at expos, and I still have to be there at 7:30 in the morning, at the booth because I'm still an employee as well as an athlete, but I'm not just an athlete where I can walk in at 10 o'clock. I have to be there to work for that role, and so those are the things that people forget that I need to stick to is that there's still work to be done. There's still responsibilities, and when you don't do that, if you don't do it, there's a price to pay for that. So it's not just lift weights and take animal pack.
Yeah. Well, it might be a sore subject or a sore topic, but you left Universal not too long ago, and you thought you might pursue something else. The grass might be greener. Tell me about that.
The one thing I learned is that the grass isn't always greener. You might think that one thing is going to be better. I learned really quickly going to the other company, and there's nothing bad to say about that company. It's just that it's not that you don't fit in. It's just that when you're a bodybuilder and you have it how it is here, it was just a lot easier to fit in. And the other thing is, when you finally have passion for what you're doing as an employment, that's a perfect thing. And I think a lot of people either don't find that in life or they take that for granted because ever since coming back, I never felt like I had to go back to work. And I never felt like when I came here prior to this that I was going to work. It's where I wanted to go.
That's interesting.
Right when I went to the other company, it very much felt like it's Monday morning. I do not want to get up right now.
But what was the difference?
It was just it was very, very corporate America. Universal, for anybody who doesn't know, is a family-owned company, and they treat it as such. So we are individuals that have a say. It's not a dictatorship, and it's just a much different vibe compared to where I was. And like I said, I have nothing bad to say about that company. It's just I didn't feel right there, and at that point I had to make a move to contact the company back, and here I am. We're back again.
And the other big thing is I bet you couldn't wear all the animal T-shirts that you had in your closet.
I sat there with a very uncomfortable dress shirts.
That doesn't sound like you, Gary.
I remember texting Eric the day that I walked in. I go, look at this. He goes, that's terrible.
Yeah. So you're back. And I think one of the questions that a lot of people have is that I've heard is that, wow, you work for Universal. Do you get free supplements?
We do. And that's the one beautiful thing about, as the marketing department is we do get a supplement allowance, and it's a very hearty supplement allowance. The reason for that is, we have to take these products so we know what we're talking about. When customers, whether in person or on the phone, ask us, what is your experience on this? We have to be able to answer that and be able to relate to these people so we can give our experiences with the products so that it's authentic. We're all about authenticity. We could, put anybody in the front desk of our company and to answer phones, and if they're not the people that will be taking supplements, then it's very not authentic. So the reason why we have that supplement allowance is we provide our employees with these products for free to try so they have experiences of their own so they can relate to customers. It just makes it more seamless in the conversation between between us and them.
So what are part of your staples today?
Always animal. I do a lot of animal products, obviously. Animal Pack, Flex, Omega. That's my foundation. I'm huge into nitro. I do about 6 packs around.
Yeah, that like same with Evan. Evan's
Yeah.
big into nitro.
I really don't like artificial flavorings that much. So I don't like to use the powdered aminos around my workout, especially because I use close to 20 to 30 grams around the workout. So I take a bunch of packs of nitro, and just three before and 3 after, and that pretty much would cover it, 10 times over. But I like Animal PM because I like getting that deep sleep. And right now I'm using Animal Fury as pre-workout. I don't like to go too heavy on the stims, so I only do about a half scoop of that.
Yeah, what you were saying a little bit ago reminded me. I think we've always been in a very fortunate position here. And when people came in for interviews or things like that, I remember in many cases they were like, I've always wanted to be part of the animal brand. I've always used the products. I've always believed in it. How can I be part of it? And you were one of those guys too. And so there was never a need, right, for anyone to say, use these supplements and talk about these supplements. That's important to the marketing team.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of our interview process is that it's not required, but it's a huge plus if you've used the products, and especially a lot of the people that I've interviewed, for various customer service positions and whatnot through the years, they come through enthusiastic.
Yeah.
They usually are fans of bodybuilding if they're not already bodybuilders themselves, so they at least have some familiarity, with our athletes. Some of them cite specific examples, regarding our athletes, but that's a huge plus. It also helps integrate them into our family a lot easier than being an outsider.
Yeah, that's great. So as we send off this episode, let me ask you one last question, Gary. And this is for anyone out there listening. What one important piece of advice would you give anyone who was looking to get a start in the industry here at Universal?
I would probably make your face known. And by doing that, I would suggest see when the ABCs are, attend them if you can, interact on social media. We do pay attention to the names that are coming through on Instagram, Facebook, and we recognize those people. So if there's ever a alpha testing program for a new product coming out, get involved in that. Just get involved as many times with our free things, and then if there's ever an opening for a position, we will already know who you are when you apply, and that will help you in that regards.
Great. And before I forget, how can people follow you on Instagram?
My Instagram is _real_G6, and that's GSIX.
And if they wanted to email you and get some advice about training, diets, or supplements, how would they do that?
It'll be GaryT@universalnutrition.com.
Gary, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me, and best of luck for next year's New Jersey States and the North Americans.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right. It was great talking to you. This is Phil, Animal Mentality, signing off until the next episode. Thanks.